really know what to do with this story, but I felt like it was worth mentioning because we mentioned these guys before. Beeper's iMessage connection software open sourced. What happens next? We're not going to comment on that last part because we don't know, but basically Beeper Mini, we talked about them a while ago. They're the latest one of those softwares that's like, we can bring iMessage to Android. And it seemed, at least on the surface, that they were a little bit more legit than some of the other offerings out there. Well, apparently they are now 100% open source. According to Beeper, anyone who wants can use it or continue development. Beeper says they are done trying to bring iMessage to Android. So they're basically just tired of the cat and mouse with Apple, and they don't want to deal with it anymore. So they just said, here's all the source code. Do whatever you want with it. We're out. Very unfortunate.
You said we wouldn't comment on what happens next, but I have something to say about what happens next. Because I did tell you, I don't know if we kept it in the final cut, but I think I told you when we were covering the story originally, this is an antitrust lawsuit waiting to happen. And I think that this is what they're trying to do. So for those who don't know, Beeper didn't just do what the Nothing company did, which is pretty much just set up a server and intercept every message and just relay it to Android devices.
Yeah, they explicitly said that in the article we covered.
Reverse engineered the protocol for iMessage and properly integrated with iMessage, and they were able to port it over to Android. Apple closed this flaw because it relied on some ridiculous blob from a Mac device from 2 decades ago or something. And so Apple just changed a simple line in their code and pretty much prevented that, but then they found a different workaround and Apple patched that as well. And now Beeper, I think the reason why they're open sourcing this isn't for any other reason than to say, this is actually open source, and if Apple tries to shut something down that's open source that anyone in the community can do to integrate with iMessage, then it's a very antitrust situation waiting to happen. So I think that's the reason they open sourced it, to make it a community run thing and to make the argument of this is actually community code, it's public code, and Apple is now actively going out of their way to use their market dominance to prevent people from using their software on certain devices, even though the capability is possible.
If that's the case, then why hasn't there been any antitrust lawsuits against Google for blocking ad blockers and things like that?
I don't know, but this is a very specific situation where I think this is like an Epic versus Apple situation where there's a particular weird thing that happens and then they see the antitrust route. But I think
which is entirely possible because they did mention in the article that several politicians ever since this started have been calling on the FTC to get involved. So
that's what I'm thinking. I think that this is going to turn into an antitrust lawsuit, and I think that if we ever get iMessage for Android officially, it's going to be because of this. Because Beeper could have backed down and just said we're done, like what Nothing did. Nothing disappeared, but Beeper's kind of making minor marketing things, and this open source thing is, I think, just marketing and just to advertise it. It's not even us anymore. It's not about us. It's about Apple actually preventing the community from doing something that's entirely technically feasible.
I'm not going to lie, that thought occurred to me because I know the people behind Beeper have already created other startups and sold them before. And I'm like, could you just imagine having that much money where your main thing, your main job, you just fuck it, I quit. You just burn it down and walk away. And you have so much money, you're just like, whatever, I don't care.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
But also, I think that's part of the it's part of the act, though, too. If my theory is correct, them saying we can't do this anymore, we're done, we're not going to try because Apple made it so difficult for us and we don't even want to try to compete. Because they said that. They specifically said we can't compete against the largest company in the world. Yeah. That's almost a direct quote from the article, I think. And that's part of this antitrust thing. I think they're trying to say we literally can't compete against the largest company in the world, and they're using, I think that's what this is going to lead towards, if I had to guess. So.
But even still, they're going to be out of business for a couple years while this gets settled in court. I don't know. I digress.
Well,
it's
this
off topic,
but they're rich and they have the money to spare.
That's what I'm saying. That's just could you imagine you with Techlore if you were at a point where you were just fuck it, I'm done, and you just threw in the towel on Techlore with no other I don't know your financial situation, but I don't have that kind of money. I could do it with the New Oil because it's not my day job, but I don't know. That's just crazy to me.
Well, everyone thinks I'm just made of money, so apparently I'd be fine.